And on a random note, too.
Yeah.
Last night, super randomly, I started watching some Joe Rogan videos. Okay? Maybe it wasn't random. Maybe it was because it was something about regressives or something, right? And then I saw his thing on trans people and making fun of them and yada yada. See, and I take Joe as a pretty good example of a guy who is at times right-wing, but I think, and maybe I'm wrong, but I think his heart's in the right place.
Yeah.
Okay? Like he makes fun of like the overly liberal crowd in college campuses, which totally exists.
Yeah, and which we do too. Like
Yeah,
with safe spaces and things like that.
Yeah, the trigger warnings and la la la. And I think that he thinks all liberals believe that stuff. When that's not the case at all. That's
Right.
a tiny minority of liberals who have gone overboard about cisgender, this and that, right? And then he'll say at one point, like, no, I have nothing against them. I want them to do whatever they want to do, right? Just don't bother me with the center-left, gender-neutral, yada, yada. That was one of the clips I watched, right? And so some people can look at that and get pissed at him and think he's a right-winger, and he disagrees with me on, I guess, on Islam and stuff like that. But I don't know, I felt like this is a decent example of a guy who, if you talk to him long enough, he'd be like, oh, right. I see how it comes off when you say all of Islam, right?
Yeah.
But maybe I'm wrong. But
I like Joe Rogan so much.
yeah.
I like him so freaking much. And I don't like hearing negative things about him because I want to keep liking him so much.
Yeah.
Right?
But that's why I brought him up in the context of this conversation, because it fits, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
I like him as a person. I agree with him on a lot of things. I don't agree with him on everything. And that's the issue here, right? That you can't take anyone in society and agree with them on everything.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? Go around making enemies because you don't agree with everyone on everything? That's crazy.
Yeah. So I think what I'm getting at and concluding with is, let's cut each other a little slack.
Yeah.
Right? So even though actually Joe, to be honest, was a total dick to me on one of his shows. Like when I was on with him, he was great to me, right? And we had a great conversation. We agreed on almost everything. And then he had a conversation with someone else where they
lied, first of all.
They lied
about.
nonstop.
I'm gonna address this one thing because this is the one thing that stood out to me the most, and it really upset me because it was defamatory, it was a lie, and it totally undermines our credibility, our hard work, and our research. We have never, ever edited our videos to take anyone out of context. If it's ever happened, it was certainly not intentional. Okay. And the notion that we would ever our editing notes, I wish you guys could be here for our post-production, because our editing notes usually consist of Cenk telling the editor, I don't know, just make an executive decision. The video was a little long. See if you can cut it in the end somewhere, right?
Go
That's
forward.
literally it. And for someone to go on Joe Rogan's show and say that we are unethical or that we take people out of context or we edit videos to be misleading, it enrages me. And so I love Joe, and I hope he understands that we don't do that. And all this other stuff about Islam and whether or not you agree about Muslims, there's obviously disagreement there, okay? And that's okay. But don't go around lying about us and what we do. This is the most passionate thing that I do. This is not only my livelihood, it's what I love, and I would never work for a company that's misleading. That's simple.
I know. So it's super ironic, as usual. Those are the same guys who purposely take our videos out of context and spread it all around. Yada, yada. We've been through that, right? So in this case, I think Joe was not only wrong, but like he was part of attacking me and calling me a liar, ironically with lies. He's not the one who created those, but he was like, oh, yeah, right? Okay, so I should hate him for that. And if I did that to Joe or anybody else on my program, talk for 20, 30 minutes about what a goddamn liar they are, right? Oh, they would be furious, right? And despite all that, I don't know why, and again, I could be wrong, but I think Joe's heart is in the right place, and I think he's misled on this stuff. And despite all that, I'm saying cut each other a break, right?
Yeah.
And that the answer to that is not more conflict. The answer to that, I think, is more conversation, right?
Yeah, I agree with you on that. You know, have a smart, mature dialogue about these issues. Again, we've said this so much, but it's nuance. It's really delving into, you know, who people are, why these things happen, and what we can do to solve them. If you stop the conversation at these are brutal beasts and they should be wiped off the face of the earth, I'm not saying Joe says that, but the people who are against Muslims tweet to me about that on a regular basis. You guys should check that out.
It's a cult of death. It's a cult of death. You have to say it's all of them. It's all of them. But I thought you said it wasn't all of them. It is all of them. It's not all of them. Don't misquote me. I know. We've been through this 1,000 times, right?
Right.
Okay. So, like, the story we just did about Cologne, right, in Germany, right? So when the people attacked innocent Muslims, the Pakistanis who didn't do the assault, the sexual assault that was horrible that happened in New Year's Eve, they defended the assault. I mean, overwhelmingly so.
Yep.
Like, you have to understand they're all the problem, that you can't distinguish between them. What the fuck? Now, those guys are really bad guys.
Yeah.
That's the difference between, hey, honest misunderstanding, and we have a disagreement, or yada, yada, and all the things we've been talking about. And then there are those guys who sanction violence against others because all they understand is violence.
What I find interesting is in the beginning of all these debates about, the regressive left and Muslims and, you know, the whole Sam Harris thing, the thing that Sam Harris and a lot of Sam Harris supporters would say is, no, we're not saying all Muslims. We're not saying all Muslims. We're not saying all Muslims. And I don't know when it happened, but eventually something switched. Well, where all of a sudden, and I'm not saying Sam Harris is saying this, although he kind of has, his supporters certainly do, where they're like, no, it's all Muslims. And they're unapologetic about it. And that kind of mentality is so devastatingly dangerous. I don't know, it scares me. I think we're living in scary times. And I fear them more than I fear Muslims, to be honest.
Well, they're here, right?
Yeah.
And so anyway, and at some point they got empowered. You know what they were given, and it's partly the whole wing of small part of the atheist community, right? And it's partly the right wing, which, by the way, they're right wingers. They keep claiming that they're more liberal, and then they say, but let's bomb the crap out of them, let's profile them, let's torture them, let's kick them out of the country, let's discriminate based on religion, but we're liberals. No, you're not. You're not fucking liberals, so get over it, get past it. Why aren't you honest? Like, they're like the most dishonest people in the world. Just admit it. You're a scumbag right-winger and move on with your life, okay? But they don't want to admit it because then they know, oops, I'm caught, right? So anyway, but the right-wingers like Trump gave them permission. And that's what's so dangerous about Trump. He said it's okay to kick out all the Muslims, not even let Muslim Americans back into the country, okay? And he gave them permission, and now they're out of the woods. Now they're like, oh, shit, I don't have to bother pretending that now I could just say, yeah, all the Muslims, fuck them.
Yeah.
Right? So now I'm not saying Sam said that, blah, blah, blah. Sam is far more sophisticated in his chicanery, okay? Maybe we should do all these horrible, horrible, horrible things, but only to Muslims. But maybe not. They would be horrible, but we should consider doing them. See, he's got that fucking thing down to a science, right? That whole spiel. And that gave people permission to go, maybe, and now that maybe has turned into definitely.
Yeah. John said something to me today that kind of changed my whole perspective on this, and it makes a lot of sense. When it comes to the public's consciousness, right, Americans' consciousness, no one really knows who Sam Harris is. Right?
Yeah, no.
So like, yes, I know he has a lot of followers and everyone thinks he's a big deal if you're involved in these discussions and you're involved in politics and you know what's going on. Vast majority of people have no idea who he is. Vast majority of people have no idea what these debates are. It's an irrelevant part of our lives.